Hi, I'm going to just do a short video here explaining what Bohr models are and how we do Bohr models in class. You don't have to take any notes as far as in your notebook, but this is what I'm going to be going over in class as I explain it to everyone while you're gone. So this is just a little bit of background information that we'll go over on the board tomorrow. All right, so what is a Bohr model? Bohr models are just a way of visually representing an atom of an element. And so this was created by Bohr. They look very similar to a solar system picture where the sun would represent the nucleus, where the protons and neutrons are, and the planets orbiting the sun would be like the electrons. Okay, so that's a visual of what it would kind of look like. And so in their model, we have our nucleus, our protons, and our neutrons, and we figure out how many of those we have by looking at the atomic number and the atomic mass. And then the electrons in the energy levels or shells. And so we have different levels where the electrons go, and they fill from the lowest energy level out. And I'll show you that in just a moment. The first shell can have 2 electrons, the second shell can have 8 electrons, and the third shell can have 8 electrons. In the examples that you're going to be working on in that Bohr model packet, that's the most electrons you're going to have. Know that in higher shells we can have even larger amounts of electrons, but for the examples we're going to do and that you would be assessed on in class, we're only going to go out to the third shell. Okay. So what does this look like? This is what it looks like. So in the middle, we have a nucleus. It's usually done as a circle, and we have P for protons and N for neutrons. Okay, so in this model, we have 10 protons and 10 neutrons. Then we do the electrons. We know that in a Bohr model, we're looking at elements from the periodic table that are neutral. So if we have 10 protons, that means we're going to have 10 electrons. We start with the lowest energy level first. So in our diagram, I'm just going to grab a pen color here. Okay, this is our first shell or energy level. They both mean the same thing, and it can have 2 electrons. E and negative is just a shorthand way of writing electron. And what you can see in this picture is that we have 1 electron here, and we have a second electron here. So there's our 2. Then when we go out to the second shell, that's this one here, so this would be our second shell or energy level. We can have 8 electrons, okay? And we draw these a certain way. We're going to go around the circle twice. We do it this way and pair them up, so it's a little bit easier to count if we were double checking our work. So if we were going to draw this, we'd start on top and we'd draw 1. This would be our second electron if we had 2 in the shell, then 3, then 4. Then if we have to go around again, we're going to go 5, 6, 7, and 8. It'll just make it easier for us to see. Okay, so we're going to do a couple together here. So if we go to our next one, these are actually out of your packet. So the first 2 in there. So you have hydrogen, element's name, its symbol is H. Its atomic number is 1. Its atomic mass is 1. And so if we were to do our nucleus, we have 1 proton and 0 neutrons. If you remember, we learned that hydrogen is the only one that doesn't have any neutrons in its nucleus, and it has 1 electron. Now in here, they draw them as a circle with a negative symbol. You can just do a dot. Okay, to represent your electrons. You don't have to do a negative in the middle of it. If you want to, you certainly can, but it can just be dots. Okay, so we're going to do one together. So we have helium. If I look at my periodic table, the symbol for helium is He. Then I have to find my atomic number. It's 2. My atomic mass is 4.0026. And then we're going to do this last. I'll explain this part in just a minute. So I have an atomic number of 2. Remember, that tells us how many protons, and it tells us how many electrons we have. So it's going to have 2 protons. And then remember, our atomic mass is our protons plus our neutrons. So if I'm trying to find neutrons, if I take this minus this, so 4 minus 2, that gives me 2. So I have 2 neutrons. The mass of my nucleus is 4. Okay, we just round this to a whole number. Okay, then we're going to do our shells. So we have 2 protons, we have 2 electrons. So I'm going to do 1 up here, and I'm going to do 2 down here, and this one's full. Okay, then it asks for this number of valence electrons. Valence electrons are the number of electrons in the last shell that we fill. So for this one, we didn't fill shell 2 or shell 3. We only filled this one, so it has 2 valence electrons. So valence electrons are the ones that are in the outer shell, the last shell that we fill. Okay, I am going to see if I can erase. Okay. And I'm just going to do an example here just so that you can see what I mean by valence electrons if we have a different number. So let's say we had 7 protons and 7 neutrons. Okay. If we're going to draw our electrons, we'd have 2 in that first shell. So 1, 2, and then we'd have 5 left. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so then the number of valence electrons are just in the outer shell, so this would be 5. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you're still struggling a bit on this, there are plenty of resources on YouTube that you could certainly go ahead and watch that people will explain how to do Bohr models, or if there's one you're stuck on, if you let me know, I can help you out when you get back. Just skip that one and move on to the next one. But try to do as many of these as you can. We'll do some more practice with this for sure before we assess on it. But let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.